Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlene. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the books that I'm planning to read in September for the Back to Hogwarts and Shaketember Readathons. If you're not familiar with these readathons, I will have announcement videos for both of them linked down in the description below. But the Back to Hogwarts Readathon is being hosted by Cheryl from Candlewick Library and several other co-hosts. Shaketember is being hosted by Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading and her husband Jason, and also Nicole from A Day of Small Things. So for the Back to Hogwarts Readathon, there is a bingo board for all of the different houses, but they all have the exact same prompts. I'm using the Ravenclaw board because that's where I always figured I would have been sorted if I had gone to Hogwarts. And the prompts are based on the 7 books in the Harry Potter series. So the first prompt is for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone, whichever title you're familiar with. And the prompt for that one is a book with found family or with a boarding school. And for that one, I am planning to read Here and Only Here by Christelle Dabeau. I was really trying to figure out a book that would work well for this, mostly for the boarding school aspect, and somehow overlooked this one until yesterday. But I just hauled this one earlier this month, and I'm really interested in it because it's by the author who wrote the Mere Visitor series. I've read 3 of the 4 books in that series and have really enjoyed it so far, so I'm really hoping to enjoy this one. There's not much information given as far as what the book is about. All we know is it takes place at the School of Here, and there are some strange things that go on. It's considered a place full of codes, compromises, questionable conduct, unspoken rules that are as illogical at times as they are unbreakable. And some of the things it says happens are a self-effacing first-year student vanishes into thin air, a persecuted outsider delivers himself into permanent exile, a tyrannical older student meets his match, a prophetess tests her powers. Behind the scenes, a cabal of students conducts a top-secret investigation into an unexplained phenomenon at the heart of it all. And that's really all we get, but it does take place at a boarding school, so it does fit the first prompt. The second prompt is for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and the prompt for this one is a book with secret in the title or a secret in the plot. And for this one, I'm going with Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. Since this one is a murder mystery, I think it goes without saying that there is a secret within this book. So that's why I went ahead and picked it for this prompt. However, I've mentioned before that my brother, sister-in-law, and I have our own in real life book club. We can't meet in person. We live about 6 hours apart, but we started our own book club last year where we each take turns picking a book every month, and this is the one that I picked for September, so I was happy to be able to include it in this readathon. And all I really know about this book is it's about Vera Wong, who is a 60-year-old Chinese lady, and she finds a dead body one morning in her tea shop. But when the police come and start investigating, she decides to do her own investigating because she thinks she can do a better job than the police can. And just what I read in my book haul, which was the first paragraph, it sounds like it should be a pretty fun, possibly even lighthearted read, so we will see. The third prompt is for Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And the prompt for that one is a book with an animal on the cover. And for that one, I'm going to be reading Up From Dust by Heather Kaufman. This is the first book in the Women of the Way series that just came out in January, and I don't know how well you guys can see it on the cover, but there is a shepherd and some sheep, so there are animals on the cover. This is also the Revive Christian Book Club's pick for September. The book club is hosted by Keisha from A Book Like You, and I was hoping to get to this one originally in August, possibly. But when I got wind that this was going to be the book club pick for September, I decided to wait. So I've been looking forward to getting to this for a while. Plus, I have a goal this year to get to 3 biblical nonfiction books this year, and I have not read a single one. So this is going pretty high on the priority list for next month. All right, the fourth prompt is for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and the prompt is a book with school spirit or a competition. However, I'm struggling to pick a book for this one. The only book I've really come up with is Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. I reread The Hunger Games last year but didn't continue rereading the series, so I could pick up that one. However, I also have my science fiction fantasy one and done video that went out a few days prior to me filming this, and everyone has until the end of the month to vote on what books they want me to read during the months of September through November. So if one of the books that ends up winning the votes will fit this prompt, I will use that book. If not, I will probably read Catching Fire. The fifth one is for Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, and the prompt for this one is a book with a secret society or an uprising. And for this one, I decided to go with The Red Queen by Philippa Gregory. I actually just checked this out from the library about a week ago, and I was thinking I was going to have to try to cram this in at the end of August, but then I realized this very much involves an uprising because this is the story of Margaret Beaufort, I think is her last name. Yes. Margaret Beaufort, who is the mother of the man who would become Henry VII. And in this book, at some point, the man who will become Henry VII will rise up to challenge Richard III for the crown of England, along with all of his supporters from France. So there is very much an uprising in this and a fight for the throne. So this is the one I'm going to read for that prompt. Also, this is the last book I need to read in the Plantagenet and Tudor Court series. I've been working on this series for years. There are a lot of books in this series. This is the only one I have left, and I really want to get this series done. I have really enjoyed it, but I've been putting off this book for way too long, so it's time I get to it. The sixth prompt is for Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and that is to read a book with a number in the title or on the spine, or a book with a battle. And I have two choices for this one because I technically started both of these in August, but I'm only 1 or 2 chapters into each of them. So we'll see which one I end up picking up. But the first one is The Women by Kristen Hanna. This one takes place during the Vietnam War, so I guarantee we're at least going to hear about a battle, if not actually witness one. I don't know exactly what the main character is going to see in this book, but I guarantee there will be battles going on whether we see them on page or not. And like I said, I started this one in August. I'm a couple chapters in, but not very far, so I think I can still safely use this for the readathon. And then the other one is Shielded by Kaylin Flanders. I only read the first chapter in August, which is what I read the last time I picked up this book. So I really need to continue with this one. But I know the main character is kind of a soldier at heart, but her father refuses to let her fight in the battles or war that is going on. But at some point she is traveling to meet her betrothed, and her royal caravan is ambushed, and she then has to hide her identity, probably to protect herself because, you know, if they realize they had royalty, that could cause a lot of problems. So I don't know what's going to happen from there, but it wouldn't surprise me if there is a battle in this book at some point, since she has been training to fight with a sword and all of that. And she does really want to have a part in the battles that are going on. She just currently hasn't been allowed to. And the seventh prompt is for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which is a book with a quest or a journey. And for that one, I'm going to be reading The Aeneid by Virgil. This one, I can't remember his name. This one is translated by David West. However, I have also found a copy on Hoopla that is translated by Robert, I can't remember his last name. I'll put an image up here on the screen. But he did the translation for the copy of the Odyssey that I have. And I really enjoyed his translation. Plus, he translates into verse, because this is an epic poem, so is the Odyssey. And this one is translated into prose. So it's not actually in verse form like the original poem, but Robert, it starts with an F, he translates them in verse form. So I'm leaning towards picking up that one instead, even though I own this one. But one way or the other, I'll be reading one of these two translations in the month of September. And I'm also buddy reading this with Dia from Novel Idea. We have plans to read, I think it's there's 12 books in here, so we're planning to read 4 books a week in the month of September. I read part of this in college, but I think I probably only read about the first 3 or 4 books, I'm guessing, based on what I've seen in the book titles. So looking forward to getting to the rest of it. All right, the 8th and final prompt is for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and this is just to play a game based on Harry Potter or to watch an adaptation. And I have a few options for this one. We do own a copy of the Harry Potter movies, so I could watch those. And I'm sure I'd have to twist my husband's arm real hard to convince him to do that. He hasn't read the books, he's not a reader, but he has watched the movies several times, and I'm sure it would take very little convincing to get him to watch the movies with me. Also, we have the Lego Harry Potter game that we've been working through, so I can definitely play some of that. We also have the Battle of Hogwarts board game and both of the expansions, and we love setting it up and playing a huge game with the base game and both expansions combined together. So again, I don't think it'll take too much convincing to get my husband to play that one with me as well. So there will probably be a few Harry Potter things going on in the month of September. Now for the center of the board, I'm not sure, because that's to read a book, either read a Harry Potter book or a book with H and P in the title. And I don't think any of my books actually have an H and a P, so I might not be getting the center square unless I pick up another book during the month that has an H and P in the title. So those are all the books I plan to read for the Back to Hogwarts Readathon. So now let's talk about Shaketember. So if you're not familiar with Shaketember, which I wasn't until about a month or two ago, it is an annual readathon focused on reading works by Shakespeare or works about Shakespeare. And I know there's several plays that they're planning to read in the month of September. If I understand correctly, each host is picking 2 books or plays to read throughout the month. Nicole, I know, is planning to read Cymbeline and King Lear. She's planning to have discussions on them. I'm assuming she's reading them too, but she's planning to have live discussions on them. Kelly is planning to read The Year of Lear, and I don't remember which one's her other book. I know Macbeth and The Tempest are 2 of the books, and I don't remember if one of those is hers or not. No, I think hers is Twelfth Night. I take it back because she said it's the only comedy. So Twelfth Night, The Tempest, and Macbeth, I believe, are the other plays that they're planning to read. Kelly running live discussions on one of them, and her husband Jason running live discussions on the other 2. Now, I already read Macbeth this year, so I'm not planning to reread that one. But Cymbeline was one of my favorites that I read in college. The Tempest has become one of my favorites. And King Lear is one that I read in college, and I missed something when I read it because I know the whole thing is he's the Mad King. But somehow I did not get that out of my reading, even knowing that prior to going into it. So I would like to reread King Lear. I'd love to reread Cymbeline and The Tempest. But I don't own copies of those. So if I manage to get a hold of a copy of them, I will read them. Otherwise, the one I'm planning to read is The Taming of the Shrew, which is a comedy, but it's the only Shakespeare play I haven't read that I own. There are quite a few that I still haven't read, especially the histories. I've read, I think, only 3 of the histories. But of the plays I actually own, The Taming of the Shrew is the only one I haven't read. And I do know this is what the movie 10 Things I Hate About You was based on, so I've wanted to read it for a while. It just took a little while for me to finally find a copy of it. And these are my favorite editions to read from. This is the Folger Shakespeare Library edition. They used to be shorter. They used to be mass market paperback size, and they used to have more of the darker pages that you usually see in books. But this one has... The new editions have bright white pages, and on each page, one side is the text of the play, and the other side is kind of a glossary telling you what some of the words and phrases mean in case you're not familiar with them. So I really appreciate these books for that reason. Plus, at the beginning of each scene, you also get a summary of what is going to be happening in the scene. So you can read that in advance and then read the play itself. So you already know what's going to happen and you can pick that up from the text. Or you can read through the scene, and if you're not sure what happened, you can go back and read the summary and fill in anything that you missed. So I really like these editions, and this is what I have been buying all of my Shakespeare plays in. So some of them I've bought secondhand, like this one. Some of them I've bought new. So I will probably be checking out some bookstores and see if I can find King Lear's Cymbeline and or The Tempest to hopefully read them this month. Shakespeare's plays don't take me too terribly long. I've read enough of them that the language usually doesn't trip me up too bad. So I'm hoping I can get to a few of them in September, but if I don't, this one is definitely priority. Okay, then there's just a few other books that I'm planning to get to in September because they are books for different book clubs and they didn't fit into any of these. Two of them are me trying to catch up on book clubs because I am very behind. Maddie from the Bookish Cottage has her Secret Garden book club, and I haven't read either of the books in the book club yet. One of them I really want to read, and that is Beneath His Silence by Hannah Linder. I've had this one on my radar for a little while anyway. Unfortunately, I didn't find out about her book club until I think about halfway through July. So I didn't have a chance to get to this one in the month of July. Was hoping to get to it in August, but at this point I don't think that's going to happen. So I do still want to get to it, even if it's not specifically for the book club at this point. And the other one is her August pick, which is The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. And unfortunately, I put way too many books on my TBR for August. So this is unfortunately one of the ones that I didn't get to. However, one of the things you will notice so far in this video is I have not mentioned my book categories. And there is a reason for that. I decided to change the categories up a little bit. First of all, I'm removing 3 of them. I'm taking away the miscellaneous category, the graphic novel manga category, and the Bronte category. The whole point of me saying of the categories, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will leave, I think my August TBR video was the most recent one that I went into how all of that works. So I'll leave it linked down in the description below. But the thing with the categories was the whole idea of I can plan books out in advance, but they're not limited to a specific month. The problem is I was highly prioritizing the books on that list and then having books that are part of book clubs, or in this case, part of readathons, that I needed to get to in a specific month, and I wasn't getting to them because they weren't as high of a priority. And the books that I'm supposed to get to in a certain month should be the higher priority, not the ones that can spill over into another month and it's no big deal. So I'm cutting a few of the categories because with miscellaneous is literally any book that doesn't fit into any category. So I can pick up those books anytime. They could be part of book clubs. They could be part of readathons. I don't need to have a specific category for them. So that category is going. Graphic novel and manga I'm also dropping because the main reason I set it up was because I wanted to push myself to read through Snow White with the Red Hair and Full Metal Alchemist series. However, there's been some decisions made recently, and I'll talk more about that in my August wrap-up, but I don't really feel the need to have a category for them because they are books that I can get through fairly quickly. So if I'm just looking for something that is a quick read, or if I have some time and I want to go ahead and read them, they're really easy to pick up and get through. So I'm not going to make that a category anymore. And the reason the Brontes is coming off the list is because I'm planning to read Wuthering Heights in September, which I realize I don't have out here. I forgot to grab it off my shelf. But I am planning to read Wuthering Heights in September, and I'm going to be buddy reading The Tenant of Wildfell Hall with Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia in November. And those were the last 2 books in the Bronte category that I was planning to get to before I got rid of that category and moved on to something else anyway. And since the last 2 books are being assigned to specific months, it doesn't make sense to have it as a category. So that drops me down to 5 categories. And I'm not going to be mentioning books in the categories at this point, I don't think, because they're not assigned to a specific month and they're technically the lower priority now. So those books, as I get to them, I will talk about them in wrap-up videos, but I'm not going to really be planning to talk about them in my TBR videos. And I guess there's one other book I forgot to grab, but I am planning to finish Words of Radiance in September as well. Yes, the original plan was to read part 1 in May, 2 in June, 3 in July, 4 and 5 in August. However, it wasn't until late June that I finally got to part 2. So it was late July before I got to part 3. And now it would be late August before I get to part 4 and 5. And more than likely I wouldn't finish it until September, even if I started it late this month. So I'm just planning to finish it in September. Whether it's early September or late September, I don't know. But that's my plan at this point, because as long as these books are, as much as there is happening in them, I should probably clarify, I'm one of those people who can get burnt out really easily. If I read too many books in a series, or even by the same author in a short amount of time, I can get burnt out to the point that I have to wait months before I can read another book by them. Or I just struggle to get through the books that I'm currently working on. So that's what I've been trying to avoid with Words of Radiance, is the fact that it's over 1,000 pages long. And it's one big story. It's not even like it's multiple books in a series and I can just say, okay, I'm going to read one book this month, wait a couple months and read another book. It's one big book. So I know there's a higher chance of me getting burnt out on this book. So that's why I'm giving myself until September now to have it finished. And then of course for September, I also have my one and done books, which I have no idea at this point what is going to be voted on and what's going to win the votes. So when I find that out, I will have a community post for that. And those books will be included in my September TBR, although I have until November to actually finish them. Okay, and now that I got completely off track, the last book that I'm planning to read in September is for the Comfy Cozy Book Club hosted by Hannah from the Teacher's TBR, and that is Cherry Pie or Die by CC James. This one, all I really know about it is it's a cozy mystery, and it involves a bakery. I know nothing more than that. So I've read very few cozy mysteries. The main one I could think of that I read 2 books in the Kate Bay Cafe Mystery series by Harper Lynn. And I don't know for sure if I'm going to continue on with that one. The books were good, but I don't know if I enjoyed them enough to actually continue on with the series. So this will be a new series that I'm going to be starting, but I don't know what to expect from this one. I have no idea if this normally gets positive reviews, negative reviews. I have no clue. So I'm just going into this one blind. So these are all of the books that I'm planning to read in the month of September, plus the book club books, plus some of the other books that I just need to get through. Let me know what books you're planning to read in the month of September. Also, if you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them. And as always, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.